Hello and welcome to the Critically Clueless. I'm a monk and today we are in Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlords, and this video is going to be about skills. We're going to be talking about skills, what to kind of look for, what I would personally prioritize, and going over why you should look at prioritizing these skills over other skills. Now, before I actually go into that video, it should be said that this is a role-playing game, guys. This is a game that is meant to be played how you want to play this game. So, when it comes to thinking, oh, I have to go down this skill because it's the best skill to go down, you play this game how you want to play it, absolutely. I'm just going to give you information as to why certain skills are better than other skills. We're going to be ranking them as well. We're going to go in from S tier to A clear to a tier, and B, C, and finally a D tier. None of these skills are particularly bad, absolutely none of them, and they're all great if they have their uses, but some of them are a little bit more useful than others. Some of them are a little bit more easier to level than others, and that's why I have ranked them as such. Anyway, let's have a little look, see. If this is the kind of video that you want to see, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We actually have 94% of all viewers not subscribed to the channel, so do us a favor, hit that button. It helps us out so much, and all interaction is absolutely appreciated. Anyway, we're looking at skills, so let's have a little look-see at this. Now, this is a brand new character that I have started up, so let's have a little look-see at this character because it makes a little bit more sense. Now, this is the brother that you unlock in the main storyline, and the reason I think he's a really good example to talk about is because you can see that a lot of his stats are redded out. They have reached their maximum. If we go to, for instance, the one-handed, absolutely brilliant. He has got 160 points into the one-handed skill line, and it's now red. Now, what red means is that it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to achieve any more ranks in that class at all without a little bit of help. Now, if we was to put focal points in, you can see that it's going to become easier for him to learn. And if we put points into vigor and put attribute points in, once again, his ability to actually learn all of those skills are going to be so much more easier now because he actually has that potential to begin with. So I'd like to point that out, guys. So if you have any stats that happen to be red and you're wondering why that may be, well, this is why. This is why that is a problem for you. So hopefully you guys don't already have that. Hopefully you're watching this before you have anything like that. But if you do happen to have something that is, in the red, you can see exactly why and adjust it accordingly. Now, we're going to talk about the worst perks in the game and why I would consider them to be the worst perks in the game, or the worst skills in the game. Now, first of all, we would have something like Roguery. Now, Roguery is actually a really cool thing to look at. There's definitely things within this Roguery perk tree that I would like to get. However, it's bloody hard to get anything within the Roguery. You can attack caravans and attack villages, that kind of thing. And when it comes to Roguery, to get the points in it, but it's really hard, guys. It really is hard to level this up all the way. And because of that reason, it's in D list. It has no real uses. There are some really good things that we can pick up, but it's one of the hardest things in the game to level. And therefore, that is why it is in the D list for me. I think the next one to put in a D list is going to be throwing. Now, you have got javelins, you've got axes. Unfortunately, when it comes to the throwing weapons in the game, I feel you never quite have enough ammunition. So then you've got to start doubling up on the amount of throwables that you have, and that eats up another slot. Well, when you can have a shield and sword, for instance, and a lance, well that takes up 3 slots. So we've only got 1 slot left. Of course, if you was going to have a bow, then you would need your bow and your arrows. Maybe it's justifiable. Me personally, I'm just not a fan of throwing. Not saying there aren't some uses out of it, but when it comes to the 6 attacking options, for me, this one ranks all the way down in D list. And that is why I put it in D list. Now, up next, I think we should really talk about a couple of other things. So, smithing and trade. I love these two. I really do actually enjoy smithing and trade. Smithing particularly, however, though, has been nerfed so much for the console version. It's really difficult to get points in smithing. Not saying the smithing line isn't amazing. There's definitely some really good perks here to pick up. I think it is this one right here. There you go. Once you finally get here, you can get a whole other ability point into endurance, which I actually think is bloody amazing. And you can earn some absolute bags of money in smithing as well. But the amount of time and effort that you have to put into smithing, I would only put points into smithing if you plan to be a smith. It takes a lot of work, and everything within the smithing line you can actually put in a companion. So instead of you being the smith, you could actually have a dedicated companion which you can do all of the smithing gear with. Therefore, you don't actually have to waste 5 focal points in smithing in order to get. Maybe that's a good way or a good thing to kind of think about. Another one I'm going to put into D tier is going to be engineering. Now, engineering is vital, especially late game. The higher the engineering you have, the shorter amount of time it's going to take for you to set up camps, set up your siege weapons, that kind of thing. But in order to get experience in engineering, you actually have to siege castles. You actually have to build siege gear. Now, that is not easy to do, especially early game. It takes a long time for you to actually get into those battles. And even if, for instance, you was to join another kingdom, for you to get picked as the engineer in a siege, that's going to be really rare because you're just not going to have the points, meaning it's going to be a lot easier, a lot quicker if you actually hire a companion who already has engineering and dedicate them to be your engineer. Therefore, for me, engineering just isn't worth your time. Pop on a companion. That's what I would recommend. Not saying it's not important, it's just companions are a little bit easier for that to kind of work with. My final one in D tier again would be medicine. Medicine, I think, is one of those ones that just, it's incredibly useful and you absolutely need a medic, but in order to become a medic yourself, it's an incredibly long process. Yes, you could be a medic, absolutely, if that's your intention, but it's a lot quicker and easier if you can just hire a companion to be your medic for you. So yeah. Moving up to C tier, however, we're going to pop in the crossbow. Now, this thing just takes so bloody long to fire. Some people love it, some people hate it. For me, it's in a C tier. It definitely has its usefuls. It is, hard, impactful, absolutely. But it does, for me, take far too long to actually fire, and therefore I'm going to put this in C tier. And I'm going to put that in C tier along with tactics. Tactics is another one that very, very useful skill to have. You absolutely want to have a high tactics. It takes a long time to get tactics, however. And again, this is another one that you can just pop on a companion, but it's one to build on. It just takes a little bit long to actually get it. However, it does have some fantastic perks and traits into it. So if you do manage to get a character with high tactics, it's absolutely useful. But it really is gained for simulating battles. So instead of actually you being in control of the battle, you just hit send the troops. And the higher your tactics, the better they will perform. And you'll also get tactical points for sending in those troops. That's how you actually earn that experience. Also going to put trade in C tier. Now, again, it's not that trade isn't useful. It's incredibly useful. It's a great way to earn money. But you have to put a lot of time and effort into trading in order to actually get the the best perk out of it. Now, the best perk has to be the fact that you can just simply buy a castle. That's brilliant. 300 barter means you can buy any settlement in the game. Now, these settlements are not cheap. You're going to have a ton of money, but if you've managed to achieve level 300 in trade, you probably already have that money to spend. However, to get there, you are going to have to invest 5 focal points. You are going to have to invest 8 ability points into social. You probably already have that because leadership and charm are bloody good. But yeah, you do have to make those huge investments, and it is going to take a very long time in order to get there. I feel that it's a little bit easier and a little bit quicker than smithing, and that's why it is above smithing. Not saying I personally don't like them, because that's kind of how I normally play my games anyway, but I just think the time and effort it takes you to get there is a long bloody time. Moving on to B tier now. Within B tier, I'm going to put polearms. Now, I really enjoy polearms, but it's one of those ones that are a little bit of a pain to get sometimes. Polearms is an ability where you can obviously couch your lance and absolutely eliminate players through that way, but it does take a long time. The lances are very expensive, and it does take a long time in order to actually build this up. But if you do build it up, it is absolutely amazing. I like the shish kebab, I believe. Which one is that? Let's have a little look see. That's a very, very good one, where you actually get to hit multiple people while there is the skewer. I like this one. Learn at level 150. Once you finally get that, you're able to have a chance to kill more than one person in a row. It does become better as you go on, but it does take a lot of effort to actually get it up to that stage in the first place. Another one I'm going to put in B tier is scouting. Scouting is really important. Later in the game, you're going to be coming up against armies, huge armies. You may not be the biggest in the game, you may not be the biggest army in the game, but you're going to have to learn how to avoid those fights if necessary. And if you can't see them, you can't avoid them. Having a high scouting means that you can have a further reach, as in your sight around you. Also, early game, this is really, really useful for helping you see like, you know, bandits and looters to avoid or to hunt down. And of course, you just passively earn scouting experience by seeing pretty much anything. You can literally wait in a town and see caravans and villagers and bandits pass you by, and you'll earn experience for every single one that you actually see on your screen. So I quite like that for that reason. Moving on to A tier, and we are going to be looking at Charm. Charm is a really good skill. It's a bit harder on console to actually level it up. It does feel a little bit bugged to me because it's a little bit difficult to actually get it. However, increasing your relation with other players, successfully negotiating deals with other NPCs will get your charm up. Now, the most important perk for me actually is one of the first ones you get, Virile. This gives you a 30% more likelihood to have children. I love this option. It's really good. If you want to make sure that you have children, and many of them, and create yourself a massive clan, then Charm at level 25 is what you want to have. And it's so early on to get that. I also really like, I believe it's down here, once you get to level 100, you actually gain increases any relationship gain with the same gender or with the opposite gender. So if you want to woo somebody, or if you want to recruit more lords, then this is the one you want to aim for. And it's so early on that you actually get these perks as well. Again, in A tier, I'm going to put riding. You absolutely want a good riding ability in this game. Being able to move around on the battlefield, being able to ride the best horses in a game, all comes from riding. So having a high endurance in order to get your riding ability higher is very, very, very useful. Again, in A tier, I'm going to put leadership. Now, leadership is the one you think of being the main one for your party size, but it's not. Leadership is a lot more to do with your garrison size of your towns and your castles. However, there are many perks within this tree that will increase your party size. And once you get to level 275, you become the ultimate leader. Every skill point after that, or after 250, gives you an increased party size of 1. So this is really, really useful. Very, very good. You do want a high leadership. However, for me, this will bring us to stewardship, and that is, as you can guessed it, a tier above that, because again, in A tier is going to be two-handed weaponry. Now, if anyone's ever seen any of my videos, then know that I've recommended two-handed weaponry to you. I think it does absolutely the most damage. It's devastating damage you can get done with it, and it's some pretty nice perks you get in that tree as well. However, two-handed does mean you are limited with a shield. Being without a shield means you can be incredibly vulnerable at times, which is why I think one-handed weapons is probably the better all-rounder. You kind of need a shield on you, especially if you ever get backed into a corner, or if you've ever got backed into a corner, you'll know what I mean. But yeah, having a two-handed weapon is devastating power. I love playing as like a berserker character, swinging an axe around, or creating and using those two-handed swords that I make in smithing. Having my character run around with one of those bastard swords is pretty cool. But like I said, it does leave you a little bit defenseless. You don't necessarily, or you can't have a shield as well. So therefore, two-handed weapons is just under the one-handed weapons. Moving on to S tier, and the ones that I absolutely recommend everyone have, or dedicate top points and time into. Number 1 being athletics. Simply put, guys, you need a high athletics in order to move on that battlefield. If you have a low, slow character, if you have a low athletics, it means you have a slow character. And if you have a slow character, then when you're charging those castles, when you're competing in those tournaments, you're not going to be able to move around on that board anywhere near as much as you want to have. So investing a few points in athletics is really, really good. I'm not saying to invest 5 focal points, but maybe pop that up to 2 or 3. You'll naturally find your athletics are going up by competing in tournaments, or just by having battles in general. Really easy one to actually level up, to be fair. In S tier again is going to be stewardship. Stewardship is probably the very first skill that will be increasing your party size. As you can see right there, we are on 160, and the party size has been increased by 40 points. And as we increase, that will then increase as well. Stewardship is also really useful for reducing wages and stuff like that. And stewardship can be really easily earned points-wise just by making your character, or the character you want to have, high stewardship as the quartermaster within your clan. Really easy to actually level up, and that is why it is in S tier, just because of how easy it is to level up, how much of an impact it has in your game, because you're going to be wanting a high party size. And yeah, that is why it's there. And finally, we have got bow skills. Bow skills I've put into S tier because it's really, really useful. I personally don't tend to use it too much, but early game, you can ride around and kill 10, 20 looters single-handedly if you are good with a bow. Now, I suck, but some people are absolutely amazing, and I do recommend going with a ranged option as well, especially when it comes to castle sieges, both attacking and defending. Being able to pull out a bow and unleash 20 arrows, killing 10 troops here and there, can be really, really bloody useful. And having a ranged option is just is just a good idea. The bows are better than the crossbows simply because of speed. You're able to fire a lot more. They seem to be easier to use, and that's why I will put a bow above a crossbow. And then finally, we have the one-handed weapons. Now, one-handed weapons, I'd always tended to stay away from them because I like the idea of swinging around a huge war axe or war hammer. I liked that idea, but the one-handed weapons are just so practical. If you've ever done a tournament playthrough, for instance, where you're trying to become the champion of the continent, then you'll know how useful it is having a sword and a shield. One-on-one, you pretty much can't be beat, and being able to have that sword and shield, being able to have that option to defend, means that you can last on that battlefield that much longer. It's the easiest to use, and therefore the easiest to get points on. So again, that's why it ranks my list. Now, that being said, guys, I believe I have talked about every single skill. If I've missed one, please let me know down in the comments. I think I've spoken about them all. And that's the order in which I would value them. Now, me personally, I'm always a smith and I'm always a trader. And I put this in the D list. It's not because these aren't useful. It's just because they are the hardest, the clunkiest, and the most time consuming to use. Things like engineering are just best put on companions. So that's why no skill in this game is bad. However, I will tell you in this video, as well as all the others, if you want to get any one of these skills up to rank 300, then you are going to need 5 focal points and you are going to need to have 8 ability points. Without them, it's just not going to happen. But yeah, hopefully you guys learned something in this video. If you did, let me know down in the comments what your favorite thing is. What is your favorite skill? I'm actually really interested to know that. What's your most go-to skill, and what's the one skill you never seem to use? But anyway, guys, that's the end of this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, we do have that active Discord as well, and the link for that is down in the description. But until next time, I've been a monk, we've been a Critically Clueless, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.